Welcome back to the Building Bigger Lives podcast. I'm Kathryn Pedersen, along with my traveling co-host, Michael Regan. He was recently at the Modern Mortgage Summit in Vegas, and we're going to break that event down for you a little bit today. We're excited to do it. I was not at the event, so it's always fun to hear about an event I was not able to attend. So we'll go through a few of the key highlights. So Michael, welcome in. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, glad to be here. Literally traveling, and so it's been a busy week of travel, but also really good and great to be in Las Vegas. By the way, you said in Vegas, have we lost the loss in Las Vegas? I guess they just don't do that anymore. We're just Vegas now. Um, but I digress. Nobody says Angeles, but who knows?
True.
We'll get there. We'll get there, Kathryn. Yeah, Todd Bookspan, who, as we've a good friend of ours and friend of the show, and also one of the folks that I've probably walked the longest with in my journey in the housing industry. Todd was the co-host along with Dave Savage. Most of you who at least are in the housing industry are aware of Dave and his work with Mortgage Coach over the years. They are the co-hosts of an event called the Modern Mortgage Summit and the Modern Real Estate Summit. It's a one-day event, but they've done an artful job of creating a morning agenda that is really for mortgage professionals and an afternoon agenda that is really for real estate professionals. But the catch is it's really ultimately an all-day event for everyone. It's just the focus changes. So lenders are inviting their realtor partners to attend and hear some of these great speakers from the mortgage side of the industry in the morning and vice versa in the afternoon. And they host this event live in Las Vegas at a studio that is, it holds about 60 people, I think, at most in that room. So it's a small gathering, but then it's webcast out to, I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 6,000 people once everybody that's registered has it. And several of my clients were watching it on the live stream because I was getting messages from them, hey, I see you're there. Hey, I just caught you on a clip. So it was interesting to see the cascading impact of how they do this. And what they do is they invite, I think it was about a dozen speakers that focused on the morning activity and another half dozen in the afternoon. And by the way, I think that was smart because more in the afternoon to keep the balance might have been tempting, but I think they understood that the room hits a certain saturation point, and so it was pretty wise to have it designed the way that they did. And I'm just looking forward to unpacking a couple of highlights because here's what today's episode will not be. It is not a a play by play of this speaker, then this speaker, then this speaker, because I think if you're really interested in that, you can go find their Modern Mortgage IQ site. I think they also have their, social handles under that, and you can find all of the content there that you need if you're interested in seeing, okay, what was the lineup of speakers, and are they available? The answer is they are. I think they do have a gate fee to be able to access it. But if you're interested, just because you missed it live doesn't mean you can't watch it. I'm just going to highlight a few of those, Kathryn, and I hope what that does is it gives you and I an opportunity to dive into a couple of their hot topics.
Great. I'm excited to hear about it. And especially because I know that there was some amazing speakers, and getting to hear some of the key points that you take away is always a great learning experience for me. So thank you for doing this today, right
Yeah.
when you get back. So first, give me one of the great takeaways that you had and talk maybe a little bit about what you learned from that takeaway.
Well, I'll maybe set up the way I'd like us to do this, similar to the way we set up Building Bigger Lives. One of the things we both said as part of the mission of our podcast was being in the housing industry, it's very tempting to always focus on the voices and the personalities that are already very popular out in the marketplace that we work in. And while that's tempting, because again, those folks have credibility, those folks have a lot of visibility, those folks sometimes are really experts in the space that you might want to talk with. The truth is, you and I know there are a lot of folks just like them that, for whatever reason, don't seek that spotlight. They're not the most regularly heard from folks. And that makes them, to me, a little bit more interesting because that makes me want to say, let's use Building Bigger Lives to pull their stories out. Let's hear more from that person. So I'm going to focus on a couple that fit that category for me. By the way, if you're listening, you may, hear from a couple of these folks that I'll bring up and think, "Oh my gosh, how do you not know who that is? That guy is a huge voice in our industry." Yeah, that's possible. I don't think they would have been invited on the stage. These guys didn't just fall off the turnip truck. I'm sure they were
Right.
invited on that stage because they were worthy. But these are folks that you and I don't hear as much from, and therefore we're really interested in unpacking them. And then second, I'd say it's not really about them. It's more about something they said that really struck a chord in me. So the first guy I'm going to bring up is a guy named James Allen. James, first time I'd heard from him. This guy's a top producer back, I think, in the state of Connecticut. So that was kind of interesting to be in Las Vegas and to be with a group that's relatively West Coast weighted. And this guy probably flew the longest to participate in this event. So I liked that.
Hmm.
And he had some things that really were intriguing. But do you remember the episode we did on the hunter or the farmer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So he decided to expand that topic, not because he had heard our episode, by the way, although that would be really cool to think that's where this came from. He decided to add a couple of the categories. So if you can picture, for those of you listening at home, you can just visualize this. If you're catching us on a later rebroadcast on YouTube, you'll see me do this with my hands. But if the hunter and the farmer are on a tension point here, he added the, kind of like an axis radius. He
Mm.
added the tension point of a fisherman,
Mm.
and then he called it a lighthouse. And of course I immediately went, okay, wait, that one of these things is not like the other, but of course willing to listen and learn. And I think what he tried to frame was a hunter is really focused only on one thing. You get to eat what you kill. So
Hmm.
if you can picture yourself in the mindset of a hunter, the idea is I need to eat. I need to kill.
Hmm.
That's the mindset of a hunter. And all of us, when we start off in real estate or in mortgage lending, have to embrace some version of this because most of us don't walk into a paycheck. We walk into a fully commissioned opportunity to earn nothing
Right.
unless we go kill. So
Yep.
I think he set the frame right with that one. So I was good with that. He reminds us that the farmer is interesting. So I'll draw the contrast to the one that you and I already talked about because the farmer invests, I'm sorry, in tools and techniques to cultivate. So think about this if we're in real estate or housing. We invest in tools or techniques to cultivate.
Hmm.
This is going, most of us, thankfully, by the year 2025, have embraced the CRM.
Yep.
It's maddening to me that it took so long to get there. Maybe that was one of the blessing outcomes of COVID was it suddenly made us realize, oh my gosh, we have so many people we've already worked with that are coming back to us. We need to do a better job of managing that information and maintaining that relationship. So a
Hmm.
CRM, for those of you out there that aren't up on the acronym, a client relationship manager, it's essentially a database tool that's designed to house a lot of useful information that allows you to be more proactive in the relationship that you're managing. And so he would call that the farmer. So we good so far? You got the hunter, you got the farmer. Any guess on where he goes with the fisherman?
I would say that that might be more in the referral partners, but that's a guess.
Yeah, I like that we guess. This is good. So think of it more in the way that mindset is. Remember, the mindset of the hunter is I only get to eat what I kill. The mindset of the farmer is I'm going to use these tools and techniques to cultivate. The fisherman also has lots of tools, but if you've ever gone fishing, and one of our good friends and a former friend of the show, a guest, John Donnelly, takes me fishing from time to time. And my gosh, if you're a real fisherman, boy, do you have gear. Lots of gear, lots of bait, lots of gear, and then lots of theories on where the fish are biting. So, so fishermen are in this mindset of they're always rotating their tactics. They've got lots of things, but unlike the farmer who's steady with those tactics, tried and true, always do the same thing, same time of year, same process, same tools. They're very methodical. The fisherman has a little bit more of this sense of, I know where the fish are biting today. and they'll go take their energy to that place and go work in that space. But if the fish don't end up biting there, they abandon it and they go someplace else, and they may trade out their rods, they may trade out their bait. They're constantly rotating their tactics.
Mhm.
That was really interesting for me to hear because that
Yeah.
really resonated with me. I see so many folks do this. They might
Hmm.
actually be doing something really good, but they don't stick with it for very long because if they don't immediately get, it's kind of like the combination of hunter and farmer. It's like they've got the mindset of the hunter of I've got to go hunt for this fish, but if my technique doesn't immediately get a fish, well then something's wrong and I've got to throw that out and go do something else. And the light bulb went on for me as he was describing this of okay, I've got to get people to recognize that that is a different mindset. So it's not just the farmer and the hunter. There's a fisherman mindset we've got to address.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It was, and then the fourth one, the lighthouse. Now, like I said, I didn't like this one just because it was like a a pattern interrupt. Like, wait a minute, we got these three areas of people that are pursuing food, and now we got a lighthouse. What does that mean? But as he described it, I understood why he chose it, and I'm less hung up on his analogy and more interested in the application, which is a lighthouse. If you think about it, is ultimately providing visibility to guide people safely into the harbor.
Hmm.
That's what a lighthouse does. It just provides a visual tool that helps guide people safely from the open water into the harbor. And by the way, avoiding the rocks while they're at it, because that's where a lot of danger is. So they're showing people the way. And I thought that's really whether you're a farmer, a hunter, or a fisherman, the real destination in real estate and housing is
Hmm.
becoming the lighthouse. Regardless of the three techniques to go find
Hmm.
business that you may find, ultimately, you want to get to a place where the business starts to come your way and you're providing it
Hmm.
direction and it's safe. That really the nickel dropped when he started speaking in those tones. So I think I've done a little bit of setup here, and I think
Yeah.
I've given you a sense of where James was going. Play with this idea a little bit. It's a good pickup on where we left off with our episode.
Yeah, it is. I'm just hearing this for the first time, so it's kind of fun because I'm taking it in and I'll input it out. But right when you said lighthouse, I just thought like calm and a beacon that people are kind of drawn to in a way. To kind of say, oh, good, we're close. Oh, good, we're getting there. So I think that it's a great visual, and especially in our business where sometimes you do things that you aren't sure if they're you're doing things for visibility. So an example might be my United Way classes. Yeah, am I getting a ton of leads out of it? No, but but it's really a lighthouse project, right? Where we're bringing people in safely into the industry, into the harbor. And then from there, they're easier to fish if they're already in the harbor, right? So it's a great visual, and I love the different perspectives, especially because we did the prior podcast on hunting and farming. I've brought that up in a few groups to a few people, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's a great spin on it, and I love the analogies.
Well, so here's where my brain went, and let's build off of this because you're right. It was definitely like you, interesting to me to think. Okay, he's taking a different angle to a topic that we had already unpacked, but bringing a totally fresh perspective
Yeah.
to it. And here's what my takeaway was: when I'm a farmer, when I'm a fisherman,
Hmm.
or when I'm a hunter, in any of those three, the focus is on me. I'm planting seeds. I'm putting bait on the hook. I'm taking whatever,
Hmm.
weapon that I have to go hunt, but it's about me. I need to eat.
Hmm.
The lighthouse is completely about the other person.
Yeah.
And when I think about our referral partners, whether we're hunting, fishing, or farming, what if they are smart enough to realize that and they feel the focus is on you. They feel that regardless of which strategy you're picking at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
they're the prey.
Yeah.
What if, as a lighthouse, you made the partner the hero of the story? They're the one that you are guiding safely because you've created something that draws them to you in the first place, that your light was shining so clearly through the fog of all the
Mm,
competition that they said, I'm choosing to follow you because I know you will get me there safely. You'll deliver my paycheck on time as promised.
mm,
You'll treat this client that I'm trying to secure a relationship with really well. You'll represent me well. You won't disrespect me. You will provide better service and solutions than maybe the other options that they thought were available. And so
yeah.
I'm now attaching my credibility to this referral that I'm giving you. Like all
Mm-hmm.
those things are true of the lighthouse. And it was really important to me to think about that because I want to challenge our listening audience. You know, are we really waking up every day thinking about our referral partners first? Because you said that it made you think about referral partners. And I think if we get in the mindset of thinking of our referral partners first and we make them the hero of the story, make them the champion, then the
Mm-hmm.
outcomes of this can get really interesting. He gave a couple of examples, so I'll just highlight a couple of his just so you know where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine you've made them the hero, and now you get to the closing, and now you get the opportunity to do the post close follow up. And you might, as any great lender does, you might send a RESPA compliant gift, right? You might provide something
Mm-hmm.
just as a way to say thank you. This guy sends a whole package of boxes for the moving date with the referring partner's image and info on the boxes.
Nice.
And the whole idea is to make them the ongoing hero. Like, so his pitch to the partner is, hey, it's not that I transfer the focus on me and they get all the info with my branding on it. I'm putting your branding on it so that when
Yeah.
those boxes are moving, everyone that's helping them move is saying, hey, who's that? When all those boxes go down in the basement, after the move has happened, but they go become storage, the reticular activator is always on them. They are the hero of the story. Really intriguing when I think of it that way. Here's another one we often do, and I guess the context for those of you listening would be as lenders in a real estate referral partnership. One of the things we'll often do is, come around tax time, we'll send the 1098. They always set up a script in the email that says, "Hey, Kathryn, the realtor we work with reminded me that you might really value another copy of this just in case it was hard to find at tax time." They
Mm,
made the referring partner the hero of the story. They, when they emailed the closing statement, Kathryn reminded me that this might have been lost in the shuffle with everything that you're trying to manage at a time of, and by the way, I've included the amortization schedule. I've included the original total cost analysis we put together. Here's a package of all the documents we worked on so that when we follow up to track the performance of your investment, we've got all of it here. But it was the referring realtor that reminded me that you
mm,
would imagine how that makes that referral partner feel. Like you have
right.
way elevated them. They are the hero of the story. So this whole lighthouse thing, we can pivot off of it, was really intriguing to me. I was really glad to hear him take that perspective because so often hunter, farmer, fisher, it's about us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. It's great. Be the light, right?
Yeah, and again, I think the idea of being that light is, you're a person of calm, like you said, providing a really proven path to safety. And I mean, my gosh, a real estate transaction is full of enough chaos. So if you can be that calm person, I think that, and of course, you have to produce the results. I mean, Let's
Hmm.
don't forget about the actual hard work that he's doing, but he makes the focus on them, not on him. Loved it.
Yep. Yeah, that is great.
All right, I heard from another speaker that stood out to me. And again,
Yeah.
I
Tell
I
me
mean, you
about it.
saw what we just did. We spent 10, 12 minutes unpacking one person. I could go all, I mean, I don't want to repeat the event itself. You can go watch the event if these speakers are of interest to you. And by the way, some of these are really some of the heavyweights of our industry. So they do some great things. Here was another guy. Have you heard of JJ Mazzo? This was another person that I had a chance to hear from.
I had not, but he sounds great.
Well, I'll tell you about it.
Perfect.
And I don't know JJ's backstory, but now I want to. Meaning, he presents with some context that his life might have looked a little bit different 20 years ago than it does today. That's how he presents. So he references some things about how he has transformed his thinking, how he has transformed his body, and how he has transformed his life. Like, he really is a um, living example of someone who has embraced transformation and now stands on the other side of what apparently were some really difficult things. I'll take his word for that, and I look forward to now learning more about his story. But in this presentation, he only had about 15 minutes to deliver his content, and there were several things there that he talked about. And one of them was this concept of the discomfort zone, that so many of us work so hard to develop a comfort zone. And he finds that his experience is that his results tend to be best when he's in the discomfort zone because it forces him to turn that pain into perseverance. And I really liked that shift in thinking because so many of us want to get comfortable. We want to get comfortable with our team. We want to get comfortable with our process. We want to get comfortable with our partners. We want to get comfortable with our delivery and our follow
Hmm.
through. I don't want to imply that systems aren't a great thing, but real life says things happen. I'm sure it
Hmm.
happens in your business all the time. And he decides not to let those disruptors become a problem. He embraces the discomfort because it forces him to say, okay, how do I take this pain and turn it into perseverance? And so I liked the mindset of that because really, when you think
Hmm.
about this through the lens of self leadership, and we've talked a lot about mindset in this. And I've always made this comment that, hey, we have to be careful to know the difference between our reasons and excuses
Hmm.
because sometimes they look the same, or we present them the same, but the truth is they're quite different. He really took a different approach and said, "You're going to have one of two choices. You're either going to have reasons or you're going to have results." And boy, did that really take it to another level of let's don't even waste our time drawing a
With
fine line
excuses.
between
Yeah.
reasons and excuses. Just bulk them together and decide, are those going to be your reasons or are you going to produce results? And boy, do I know some people in my life that need to
Hmm.
hear that message because at the end of the day, we've all got reasons.
Yeah.
We all have busy lives. You acknowledge me traveling a lot. I've got a reason for why I might not have wanted to wake up and record this episode,
Hmm.
but I wanted the result. I wanted to
Yeah.
get some of this out into our audience while it was still fresh because it was powerful. It was really a great day for me. And JJ brought an attitude around that said, okay, if you're really going to focus on results, then you really got to design your support systems accordingly. Otherwise, you're either drifting in your role
Hmm.
or you get to direct what happens. And think about the difference between those two words. Drifting is you're kind of reactive. You're just letting the day dictate what you do. You're letting the information you get from a client dictate what you do. You're letting the
Hmm.
exchange with the partner dictate what you do. Or you have a system and you're directing it because you're not going to focus on reasons, you're going to focus on results. I think if our audience can just grab that, those aren't just
Hmm.
semantics. These aren't just words that, oh, tomato or tomato. No, they are literally polar opposites.
Right.
They're not two ways of saying the same thing.
I'm
React
gonna
to it.
loop it back to the lighthouse. I think of drifting. You're gonna hit those rocks.
Mm.
If you're directing the boat, you're going to steer the boat the right direction and not just drift. So I think it's a great tie back to what we talked about of you've got to take charge and say, hey, this is the direction we're going. And yes, it may take a little bit to right the ship, but I love that analogy as well and how it fits back into what we just talked about. So that's perfect.
Yeah, so if you're out there listening today and you just heard Kathryn tie those two together, I think that's super smart because these were two out of a dozen speakers that I could have highlighted, some of whom you would already have heard from or probably know of. But these threads existed throughout the day. There was a lot more to
Mhm.
unpack there. So while I get no nickels for promoting the idea of going back and highlighting this content, if you are drifting today because you had maybe started 2025 with this vigor, like, okay, it's going to be a new year, the elections are behind us, it's we've figured out how to just deal with 7% interest rates, we
Mhm.
figured out how to deal with the inventory where it is, there's pent up demand. Like you just decided 2025 was going to be the year in which things take off. And maybe for some of you, it has. I'm certainly working with some clients who have. They're literally, it's not full on, hockey stick to the right, but it's moving in that direction. But some of you aren't there yet emotionally. Maybe you're drifting and you're starting to stack up your list of reasons or excuses for why that's not
Mhm.
happening the way your plan had said. Take ownership of some of the things that you do get to control in that and decide today that I'm going to stop drifting and I'm going to start directing. I am going to take control of those things that I know I'm responsible for. I think that shift is what I heard loud and clear in this man's life, and the results are certainly there. You can go look him up if you want to see what he's doing. I mean, all of these people featured on stage are really pretty inspirational in terms of their production leadership. But again, I the numbers aren't always what attracts me. I'm interested in the story behind those numbers. Who is this person? How are they leading? What is their vision? Why is it so compelling? And again, JJ's story is one I look forward to digging back into. He had a couple of
Yeah.
takeaways that I just want to share with you because they were so good. One is pretty serious, the other is pretty funny. The one that I think is pretty serious is one that we've probably talked about, but I don't think we've used this quote. As you're in this journey, comparison is the thief of your joy. Remember that one?
Yes. Yes, I have heard that one. It's so
It
true.
was a great reminder to me of, hey, don't look to your left and to your right now.
Hmm.
If you're a real estate agent listening and you're thinking, yeah, but they've got listings and I don't. Hey, their buyers are getting contract offers accepted and mine aren't. Comparison is the thief of joy. Focus on you. If you're going to be that lighthouse, like James, our other speaker that
Hmm.
you referenced, that's not going to come from you spending time worrying about what's happening at the cove down the coastline. Focus
Hmm.
on your cove. Be the lighthouse. Another quote JJ said, which I did really love. He said, "Look, there's a lot of clowns in this business, and if you're going to hang out with clowns, sooner or later you're going to end up in the circus."
So true.
I don't know why that one hit like a just a 2 ton heavy thing
Yeah.
right on my head. Was like, wow, is that the dang truth? If you're gonna hang out with clowns, sooner or later you're gonna end up at the
Hmm.
circus. So really think about, again, going back to James. I love that you're tying these two together. If you're going to put your investment in these relationships, whether they're the natural symbiotic relationship we see between lenders and their real estate partners, or
Hmm.
maybe the builders, or maybe the financial advisors. There's lots of folks in these networks that can be really great referral partners. Make sure that you don't just put up with somebody who's going to take you to the clown show, because I really think that's so much wisdom. So often we are just so
Hmm.
happy to get a referral that we'll put up
Hmm.
with anything. We're so happy to have a contract to work on that we'll put up with anything. And if you're going to hang out with clowns, sooner or later, you're going to end up at the circus, and you get to decide that. Maybe you
Mhm.
really like the circus. For me, clowns freak me out. I don't want anything to do with that.
Hey, one other thing that keeps popping in my brain is I learned a word from my daughter that I didn't even know. So race cars drift, right? Where they
Mm.
like start to move. What gets them out of that is pushing the gas and holding the steering wheel.
Isn't that
So,
funny?
essentially directing and pushing your foot on the gas. And I think about that sometimes when it's like, hey, if you're in that slide, what's the way to pull out of that? Hit the gas. And it's no different on ice. It's no different everything else. Then you get control of that vehicle and you're good to go. So that's what I kept thinking of while you were bringing that up.
Can we quote Abby or Kayla on that one?
That's an Abbey.
Okay.
Dirt bikes, race cars.
I
So
I,
it's an
I would have
Abbey one.
assumed that, but our audience doesn't always know these things.
Right. Very true.
So Abby Peterson, there you go. Great reminder that even mom and her crazy old coach can utilize, because that is the dang truth. And I think most of us in life have seen those times where that drifting is happening,
Mhm.
when we panic, when we slam on the brakes.
Mhm.
That's usually when we get into a wreck.
Mhm.
I
Exactly.
like that. Accelerate through it. And it's calm, isn't it? When you're at 10 and
Yeah.
2, hey, those drivers are hyper focused and calm. They are
Mhm.
not panicking. If they panic, somebody gets hurt.
But at the same time, to loop this back again, to be in the discomfort zone, we have something here called winter driving school, where you go into the slide so that you can, when you do it, you now know this is how I get out of it. And I'm comfortable being uncomfortable in that moment. So it's putting yourself in discomfort over and over and over again. So that's the other thing I thought of.
Kathryn, you are so good at this. In our show notes, we are going to have another episode where we are going to talk about designed dilemmas. And design
Ooh.
dilemmas are where we get to do exactly what you just said.
Mhm.
For those of us in housing, we often play the game without a lot of practice. That's just the nature of what we do. We are
Mhm.
told, just, the analogy is we're thrown into the deep end of the pool and told to swim, but we don't really get swimming lessons.
Yeah.
It's not the nature of the business that we're in. And there's good and bad that comes from that. But to your point, if we can talk a little bit about design dilemmas, these are
Mhm.
opportunities to do exactly that, like your winter driving school. So put a note on that one. We need to come back and unpack an episode called Design Dilemmas.
Great.
Let's put a cap on this one.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, with that, we'll get this one wrapped up. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We broke down the Modern Mortgage Summit and are so glad to have you here. I hope you got some takeaways, regardless of your business and regardless of where you are at with your referral partners or your business or just where you are mentally. So I hope this was helpful for you. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Please share, please like, and please reach out. Michael, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for making this happen on a quick turn. And again, folks, these were just a couple of old Coach Michael's highlights. I think there was plenty of gold in them there, Hills. So if you are inclined or even intrigued by a couple of the examples I gave today, and you need a little more inspiration, feel free to go find Modern Mortgage IQ. That's their handle, and you'll find all of that content available. You can listen to it, download it, and follow through with it. But Kathryn, thanks today for letting me just unpack a couple of the highlights that really impacted me.
Great. Thank you so much.